What I'd like to do now is actually introduce you to some NLP presuppositions, or convenient assumptions, or beliefs, if you like. You see, I believe if you can adopt just one or two of these into your world, then they can have a dramatic impact on your life. The first NLP presupposition is respect for the other person's model of the world. And what this presupposition is saying is respect that no two people are the same. We don't actually live in reality, we only pay attention to various aspects of reality, because we're always deleting, distorting and generalising information. We know that everybody has a certain set of internal processing filters. They are common to us all, but the content that makes up those filters is different because we're all individuals. So this presupposition is saying respect that everybody is different and nobody is going to be the same as you. The second presupposition that I'd like to introduce you to is the map is not the territory, and all meaning is context dependent. You see, nothing has any meaning except for the meaning that we give it. How empowering. How empowering is it to know that we are completely 100% in control of our interpretations of things that have occurred in our life. And there are techniques that you can use that will allow you and assist you to reinterpret things that have taken place in your past that perhaps may be preventing you from being all that you can be. And it's a concept or a framework that I like to call data versus meaning. Ultimately, what we need to do is dissect a memory or an event that's happened in your past that perhaps is preventing you from being truly who you are capable of being. Dissect that memory and tell the story back to yourself. The first component of this framework is what's called the data. So these are the facts, the things in the story that cannot be disputed. It was a Friday, it was 8 a.m, it was in Fiji. The second component to the framework is the meaning that we have attached to that specific situation. Perhaps the presentation didn't go as planned, perhaps you were put on the spot, you felt incompetent, you were no good at delivering the public speech. Then, of course, you've got the interpretation, the meaning that you have attached to that entire situation. You see, the meanings that we attach to situations can either be useful or they're useless. How many useless interpretations have you attached to certain things in your past? If you've had a bad experience and your recollection of that event is that perhaps that event has not gone as well as it could have, then we look at the third component to the framework, which is reinterpreting that event. Twist the meaning that you've attached to that event around and look at it and give it a different perspective. Perhaps look at how many presentations you've done over the course of your career. How well did those presentations go? Did you feel good? Did you feel competent? Did you get a good response from the audience? If there's only one component of the presentation that you've just delivered that didn't go so well, then why have we allowed that particular incident to prevent us from ever public speaking again? So by simply twisting the meaning of that situation around, we can change the way that we feel about that particular circumstance. And by changing the way that we feel about that particular circumstance, we can move on to being the person that we're truly capable of being. The mind and body are connected. Well, we know that the brain's primary function is to understand and to know what is actually taking place in the body. You see, our brain is constantly computing for emotional significance. So it's looking at our body posture and trying to interpret what that body posture means. And the two are completely linked. If I said to you, someone outside looked depressed, what would that look like? In fact, let me ask you this question. How do you know when you're angry? You see, your body does anger. Perhaps your face screws up, your foot comes forward, your finger points, your voice deepens, perhaps it raises. Your body does anger. How do you know when you're sad? Your body does sadness. Perhaps you start to cry, you frown, your shoulders slump. That is the position of sadness. In fact, psychologists say that the quickest way to changing our emotional state is to actually change our physiology. It's very difficult to perhaps feel sad and down when you're sitting in a position of confidence and feeling good about yourself. There's no failure, only feedback. You see, we always succeed in producing a result. Now, it may not be the result that we were looking for, but we do always succeed in producing something. What a great lesson to teach your kids. There have been many people over our lifetime that have taken not weeks, not months, sometimes years to get to where they want to get to. So there's no failure, only feedback. And the result that we produce, whilst it may not be the result that we're looking for, we always produce something. So what it ultimately does is it lets us know that that's one way that we shouldn't try again. And the last presupposition that I'd like to talk you through is the meaning of communication is the response you get. You see, what this presupposition is saying is that we are 100% responsible for all of the outcomes that we achieve. As a teacher, as a trainer, as a speaker, as a financial advisor, as a parent, we are responsible for the outcomes that we get from our clients, from our family, from the people that we're communicating with. If the client doesn't get what it is we're saying, that's not the client's fault. That's our fault. And we need to change our communication style in order to connect with them. You see, typically in a sales environment, we use our own communication style when we communicate with our clients. But what happens if your clients have a different communication style and a different learning preference to you? So by having a greater level of behavioural flexibility, could you actually close more sales?